I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everybody on a nice cold October night. This is a regular City Council session for October 19th, 2020. We'll begin with the roll call, and if Shelley Enderby could.
Okay, Andy?
Yeah.
Phil? Phil? Lauren?
Present.
Mylan?
He's here.
Julie?
Here.
So no Phil?
He was on, I'm not sure where he went.
I see.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm not sure if you caught my name, but I didn't hear. I can barely hear you.
Okay. What's that?
All right, well, you might want to take off your mask when you speak so they can hear you.
Okay.
And speak close to the mic so we get good reception.
Hopefully this will be good enough. Shannon Middleton is not here tonight, so we need a motion to excuse Shannon from this meeting. Do we have a motion?
This is Mylan. Oh, this is Mylan. I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to excuse Councilman Shannon Middleton from this City Council session tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
The next item is the agenda. We need a motion for the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
This is Andy, and I make that motion. This is Julie. I'll second it.
Thanks, Julie. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda and consent agenda for the City Council meeting of October 19, 2020. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a presentation by Leslie Hebert for KVH, and it's a project presentation on their bond that will be voted on November 3rd. Is Leslie on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, super.
Very good.
I was going to go ahead. I think there's some information included in your packet and just talk about it for a little bit tonight. We presented the last proposal at City Council meeting last summer, and so we went into quite a bit of detail at that time. And as you know, the proposition didn't pass last year by a couple hundred votes, and so we got a lot of feedback. We had some community meetings, and we really found out some valuable information from the community, and so we changed the scope of the project based upon that. Really, addressing some project concerns and then some operational concerns. So overall, I think we heard that the project seemed expensive, that there were some things included in the project that weren't considered, essential. And so we heard pretty loud and clear that the community, was willing to support the things that are essential. And so we were able to reduce the project cost by about a third. Originally, it was about a $20 million project, and it's at 14.3. So that was accomplished through changing the location of the project. So if you're able to pull up the information in the flyer, the addition attaches to the addition that was completed in 2007 on the south side of the property. So it's 2 levels with acute care and surgery on the main level, and then the lower level would be a shelter for future growth space. So by changing the location and then creating that shelf space, that's how we were able to accomplish that about 35% savings. So by doing this, creating new acute care area, we'll be able to utilize the existing acute care for long-term care. You know, similar to what we talked about previously, there's no long-term care in Passaic County. The Department of Health has identified a need for 180 beds. As a critical access hospital, we're able to use our 25-bed license to swing back and forth between acute care and long-term care. So we identified 10 beds for acute care, and that left 15 for long-term care. So we could do some slight modifications to that space just in order to create that common area spaces that are required and be able to accommodate long-term care. So it works well for that. It really it's a little bit more challenging to provide current acute care hospital level of care in that space just because of the space was built in 1949. So it's older, it's a smaller space with semi-private rooms and shared bathrooms. You know, we, especially during this time, have realized that, you know, those private rooms and those private bathrooms, you know, it's really important for hospitalized patients. We'll have 6 private rooms and 2 semi-private rooms. Those semi-private rooms can be converted to a higher acuity room. So if we have a patient that we're not able to ship out, and we've been thinking a lot about COVID because that's been on our minds now for the last 6 or 7 months. And if we had to keep a patient, if we weren't able to ship them out, these are negative pressure rooms that have the space to accommodate the equipment that you need in a higher acuity level of care. So we made a few changes to the project kind of based upon COVID. We're learning a lot right now, and having these separate spaces and private spaces, you know, is really, really important. That space will then also have a new surgery space. So very similar to what we talked about before, our current surgery space is, you know, built in 1949 and 1967. We had to actually close it down at the beginning of this year before COVID for some repairs because we just couldn't continue to do surgeries until we made a few repairs. So, you know, we just realized that that's the challenge that we are going to face, you know, in a space that is older. That space in particular, in order to do more surgeries, it just doesn't have the infrastructure that you need. It doesn't have the access to electrical outlets. It doesn't have the environmental controls that you need. So we hired a new general surgeon. She started in April. We have a orthopedic, Dr. Stanley's coming up and doing some surgeries. We have a podiatrist who does some foot and ankle surgeries. We have Dr. Armerding who's doing endoscopy. We have Dr. Roscoe who's still doing wound care. And then just today, actually, we had a gynecologist start. So she's seeing patients in the clinic, and then she'll be doing some surgery. So our surgery program is really growing, and that's great. But having the space for that will be really important. And now we're having more surgeries, and with COVID, our surgeries take more time because of the extra steps that you have to take. And in that older space, it just takes more time. We have to do 100% air exchange, and because of the older air handling equipment, you know, that takes longer. So there's just a lot of, you know, reasons why surgery space updated is really important to this project. But we were able to reduce the cost and that impact on taxpayers with dollars. Right now, if you own property tax in the hospital district, that current bond that gets paid off in December is about 44 cents per thousand. That will be at 67 cents per thousand with the proposed project, so it's about an increase of $3.83 on a $200,000 house. So we have a little calculator on our website that shows that. We do know that every year that we postpone this project, because of the cost of construction inflation, because construction inflation is between 3 and 5%. It's been at 4 to 5% every year in the last few years. But even at this downside project, it adds about $500,000 a year. So every year that we postpone this, it's getting the cost increases. And so that's just, you know, a thing to consider is you know, the cost will escalate the longer that we put this off. So the significant changes to the project. We just, really wanted the community to know that we listened to the feedback, we made the adjustments to the project, and, really feel like this is what our community has indicated that they want and is essential for the long-term care of our community. So I kind of, think back if we hadn't done the expansion, if the bond wasn't approved in 2000 and we didn't add on and get that completed in 2007, we wouldn't have the emergency department or the new imaging space or even the wellness and therapy center that we finished in 2017 on the lower level. So we have that space because the community supported the bond, 20 years ago, and I can't imagine what it would be like without that. So being prepared for the future is important. Previously, we talked about the economic impact of this. So currently, the hospital district has a little over 200 FTEs, about 250 employees. This will add another 22 positions. Currently, we contribute about $26 million to the local economy. After this is done, just with the addition of the long-term care space, that's the additional service line revenue we looked at. We'll be adding another $2 million to the local economy. So we really do, make an impact to the economy, and then we're able to provide that service that is really needed for our community. Many of the services we provide, if it wasn't provided locally, our community members would be going without care. The last community needs assessment that was complete in 2019, and Litzat County participates in a gorge-wide community needs assessment. But the greatest unmet basic need was transportation. So if we don't provide the service here, oftentimes people go without the care. And as we've added services, and in this information, there's a list of just the services in the last couple of years that we've added. We've really had a lot of growth, and the community's responding. So it's great to see that. So I know you have a full agenda, and I don't want to take up a lot of time. So I just want to see if there's any questions that you have about the project. Any comments?
Council, do you have questions or comments?
Roughly, what is the hospital district composed of? Is that all of Klickitat County west of the Klickitat River, or how would you characterize that hospital district mapping?
Yeah, so Skyline is, we are hospital district number 1. Skyline is hospital district number 2. It's not a straight line cutoff, but we have Wishram, Klickitat. We kind of just skirt on the edge of Glenwood, and then across, the top of the county over to Rock Creek. So the far east end of the county isn't included in either hospital district, and then we have Goldendale and Centerville and Mary Hill and that main area. But it's not there's not a single river or line that it's split precincts and a variety of things, but that's the general area. We have about 8,000 people in the hospital district service area. We service about 10,000 people in a year, unique patients that, we have some folks from out of the area either traveling through or staying with family or come over from Sherman County or Wasco County.
Any other comments or
This is
questions?
Kevin Stiles. I'll go ahead and make a comment. As I look at my taxes and how much they want to increase it, I'm looking at what a Big Mac every month to have 15 extra beds for one household. And I don't think the cost of a Big Mac is worth putting somebody through a ride to Portland or Yakima or wherever they may be shipped off to. It's just the cost of a Big Mac. It's not a lot of money.
We really try, especially with this revised project, we're very sensitive to costs that, it is a big deal, to people, and so we really tried to be sensitive to that, to keep it minimal. When this 2000 bond was passed, at the time, it was a $7.5 million bond, and, the assessed value of the hospital district was much less, but it was passed at $1.29 per thousand. Currently, because of the growth in assessed value, it's now at 44 cents per thousand. So, as those assessed values change, that changes that, per, tax per thousand adjustment. But even in the year 2000, the community was, willing to support it at $1.29 per thousand. So, we really have been trying to keep it so that it's, less of an impact. We also have a property tax credit that can be used. So if you pay property tax and you've paid your bill, you can bring it into the hospital. And if you have an outstanding bill for service provided, we will apply that property tax payment to your bill. So we try to get people to utilize it, and some folks utilize it every year. It's been in place for probably nine or 10 years. I remember when we put it in place, and so if that's the case for some people, it's actually a net zero. It wouldn't be an increase at all if you applied it to your bill. So that's another benefit of it.
Slightly off topic, but what about all the rooms that you have above, not the hospital, but the clinic on the other side of the cafeteria? Is there any proposals coming up for that piece of property? Because I know you're only using them for doctors to sleep in overnight at this point in time.
So we remodeled the first and half of the second floor when we moved up from the clinic, the old clinic down in Collins. Since then, we've remodeled a pod that we created. We're creating a behavioral health department in. By the end of the year, we'll have five providers in that service line. We are starting, in fact, we just received proposals last Friday to remodel the one last pod that's left on the second floor, and that will be primarily telehealth medicine, additional specialists. So the third floor has been used for sleep rooms, for different travelers that we have, or when we recruit employees, professionals, and they are not able to find housing right away. So oftentimes, we'll provide up to 3 months worth of housing for employees so that we can recruit. These are some difficult to recruit professionals, providers, pharmacists, different types of people. And then currently we have medical records in our IT department on the third floor. Medical records is in the process of moving down to the old clinic space on Collins, and then we will have that building full. And so we're having to push more up from the second floor, and then we'll just have, really not very much space left. Because we still have to have some space for, non-clinical space. And so that's what we've been able to utilize the third floor, because we keep juggling people around and remodeling space as our services are growing, and that's what's been pushed out, is really the non-clinical folks have been pushed out of the hospital to the third floor, and now down to the Collins building. So not a lot of space left.
What do you? I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody, but what do you think the percentage of the people that are hired by the hospital that live in Goldendale and live in Klickitat compared to living under the Dalles?
So we do know, I think it's either 87 or 89% of our employees live in Klickitat County.
Terrific.
So it's about 3 times higher than John Day Dam with decent paying jobs. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Anyone else for questions or comments for Leslie?
Leslie, you mentioned that there were 22 new employees that would be hired if this is passed. Are those all full-time employees?
They are. That would be 22 FTEs. So when we look at the additional direct patient care staff that's required for I really have no doubt that we'll fill up these 15 long-term care beds, because we know how difficult it is to place people, because after they come to the hospital, then they need to go to a nursing home. So I really believe that we'll fill those up quickly. So you have the direct patient care staff, and then you have the support staff around that. So they're full-time employees, and then, I mean, with economic development, the dollars that are put into the community create secondary jobs. So those 22 jobs will create, based upon this model, another 7 jobs in the community. So, for overall Goldendale area, if we can add 29 jobs, that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's definitely significant. It'd be interesting to know from, maybe a survey of your current employees and others as we see more people moving in here, what the needs are or desires are for folks that are looking for new jobs here, moving to Clickdat County and Goldendale, so that we can kind of have that information to help with our planning.
It's kind of an interesting, I think more data would be helpful, but from a recruitment standpoint, because of COVID, we have seen people wanting to leave the larger urban areas, those healthcare professionals that really just don't want to be there anymore. I was talking to Greg Gallagher, the county treasurer, a couple weeks ago, said the county treasurer's office in September processed more real estate transactions in the month of September than they ever have since he's been there. And it was like, I can't remember if he said 146, but folks are moving out of the more urban areas, and that's been helpful for us in recruiting. We also really try to work on developing our own, internal folks and having opportunities for career development paths here as well.
Council, do you have other comments? Leslie, I really, really appreciate what an excellent job you've done explaining this particular situation for the hospital and all the new services that have been added, and the fact that the hospital really did listen very carefully to what the community was needing. This is a terrific improvement, and I'm excited that this bond will hopefully succeed without difficulty whatsoever. Thanks for a really, really good presentation and a great job by the hospital. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And if you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to call the hospital. They can track me down or email me, and I'd be happy to answer those.
Excellent. Thanks so much. The next item we have on the agenda are department reports. And we'll begin with our Chief of Police, Jay Hunziker.
Good evening, everybody. Last week, we picked up a Legends Community Contribution Fund that we apply for every year. This year, Legends Casino awarded us, the police department, $8,000. We submitted that for stop sticks, AEDs, and other police equipment, so we were really happy to see that kind of an increase. The past couple of years, we've received $3,000 per year. Then last year, I think it was $4,000, but this year they doubled it. So we were really pleased to getting that. As everybody knows, on October 3rd, there was a pursuit that came from out of town into Goldendale. I'm happy to say that the suspect was eventually arrested and charged with felony crimes. He's pending that. One of our vehicles was damaged by the suspect, and that just turned out to be just a minor repair that's going to be taken care of at the collision repair shop here in town. Other than that, things are running smoothly at the department. We did have some battery issues for our portable radios, but we have all officers have new portable batteries, so they're up and going.
Really good.
Real good. So other than that, we're doing fine. Nothing major has happened in the last week or so since the pursuit that came into town. So things are going good right now.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much. Noah's in training with the volunteer firemen tonight at the fire station, but he did make a remark that we need to be really smart about anything that we are wanting to burn. With the high winds and the still dry weather, we need to be very, very cautious. And I hope everybody will heed that. The next item is council business, and Larry Bellamy will present details on the proposed preliminary budget. Larry?
Okay, Okay, the proposed preliminary budget is due in the first week of October, but since we didn't have our meeting due to internet issues at the last council meeting, we've moved that presentation over to this meeting. And so the document attached to this agenda bill is the proposed preliminary budget. It is for 2021, and it is primarily an extension of the 2020 operations and maintenance budgets. We are not anticipating budgeting any new positions at all. The police department will remain the same. The public works will remain the same. The office staff will remain the same number of employees, and no major O&M changes are anticipated, with the exception of some capital projects, but I'll mention those in just a minute. So as far as the capital projects are concerned, we do have one project that we need to support, for which we've applied a grant request to, and that's through the Transportation Improvement Board for the improvement or reconstruction of Byers Avenue. And that particular job is estimated to cost about $660,000. So a 90% grant of that would cover about $600,000 of that total project cost, but the city needs to contribute at least 10% to that cost, to that project. So we're holding out a capital outlay in the general fund / city street fund for $60,000 to have that match. In support of that project, assuming that we are awarded the project, we will need to have some water sewer funds applied to a water line replacement project up there. A few years back, we replaced the sewer line, and then we still realize that the water line needs to be fixed before we do a major improvement on the road, of course. So we need to have a capital outlay reservation for that water line project up on Byers, and then we need to also make sure we address the water in that area along the north side of Byers Avenue. So that's one of the projects that we want to set aside capital outlay funds for, and the other project that we need to do is in support of the Klickitat County Administration Services Building, and as well as a lot of downtown businesses, but the replacement of the sewer line in the alley between Main and Court, and then depending on how the funds go, anywhere, the funds need to go towards 3 blocks or 1 block, depending on how we can extend those funds for the capital outlay reservation. Anyway, it will go from Chatfield to Golden, hopefully, and if we don't have the money to do the entire project, we'll at least do the piece between Columbus and Golden. But the piece between Columbus and Golden is for sure a priority, and right behind the water line on Byers Street, assuming that we do get the grant from the Transportation Improvement Board for reconstruction of that project. And then the status of the budget is such that the next required presentation is in the first meeting in November. That's when we'll prepare and submit the budget message, as well as what they would now call the preliminary budget is due in the first part of November, and then we would hold public hearings in the second half of November, first part of December, with the final budget due by December 31st. We always like to have the first reading of the budget on the first meeting in December, and the second meeting in December would be for the second reading. And we always like to have it done before Christmas, so we don't have to be in here haggling away. So that's kind of the timeline and the schedule for the proposed preliminary budget. But before we get into all of that, we need to sit down with the budget committee And I was hoping that the budget committee could meet on Monday, October 26th, so that's 1 week away. And we would talk about in a little bit more detail the plans that we have for the budget for each one of the departments. So that's my presentation, and that's all. It doesn't require a motion or anything, but I would like to get some feedback on those council members that are on the budget committee to see if they can make that meeting on Monday night at 6 o'clock. So the first thing I'd like to do is get the budget committee to let me know if they'll be able to attend.
Larry, this is Andy. I will be able to be there.
Okay?
Larry, this is Julie. I believe I'm on that committee, correct?
I believe so.
I can be there.
And I think Shannon is the other person on the committee, so I'll touch base with him. I'm sure, hopefully he'll be back from and be able to attend. Okay, I don't anticipate any questions, but if there are questions, I can certainly answer those. It is a work in progress, and this is kind of like a first take, and we'll go to the budget committee, and then we'll go on to the preliminary budget.
Good. Thank you, Larry.
Larry, this is Mylan. What about Coney Park? Where we putting the stove in, sink in, and whatever?
Yeah, I talked with Doug Frantum about that about a week ago, and he said they're developing plans for that now. It's a good project for the late fall. We're still going to try to do that. However, we are working on preparing the snow plows and getting ready for snow. It's starting to get a little cooler out there, and the moisture is still in the air, so we better be ready to go on that. But that's still on our minds, and we would still like to do that if we have time available and if the weather will cooperate.
Okay, thank you.
Larry, excuse me, Larry, this is Lauren. We've had some new additions to council. Has Kevin been assigned to any committees at this point?
Say that again, I didn't quite understand it, Lauren.
Oh, has Kevin been assigned to any of the committees at this point in time?
He is on one committee, the one that he was going to replace Jane Roberts on the committee that she was serving. I think it was Public Works, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I did put him on one.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
Could you send out the committee assignments? I know we talked about this about a year ago, but I don't remember who's on what, so it might be good to just have an email that I can refer back to.
Sure.
It'd be helpful for me anyway.
I'll ask Shelley to remind me in the morning and we'll get it out to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then I was curious in the budget, that lease ground that's out around our sewage wastewater treatment plant,
Yes,
where does that show up in the budget?
it's in the water sewer budget and it should be under leases. I think its number would be something, there'd be like a 362 number in there for leases.
Okay, I can look for that, or I'll come by and visit if I can't find it.
Okay,
Thanks, Larry.
you bet.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll begin with reports from our council members, and we'll start with Kevin Fayok. Kevin?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I know I've talked a little bit too much, so I'll try to make this real brief. Some of you know that as I interact with the general public and the local business owners, I will ask them their opinion on the Goldendale City Council. As they do not know who I am, I'm guessing they answer honestly. Last week I was talking with Bill Smith, who is the Clickitat County VA rep. He paused for a minute, and he just wanted to thank everybody in the city council and in the county for all their support. Over the last 4 years that he's been here, he's been able to bring in millions of dollars of VA funding to our veterans. And this is indirect funds, it goes directly to the veterans, but they spend it here. I know they spend it in Yakima, I know they spend it in Dallas, but they mainly spend it here. And it's improved the lives of a lot of veterans, and we wanted to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank you, and I'm pretty sure that the veterans recognize this, and they want to thank you too. That's it, thank you.
Thank you,
A lot of
Kevin.
thank yous there, sorry.
Next, Councilmember Julie Buck.
Thank you, Mayor. I do not have anything this evening.
Okay. Lauren?
Yeah, I just want to note that we had a good ordinance committee meeting last week and had a good discussion about urban agriculture and trying to find ways to support that as is common in the last decade or so in a lot of larger metropolitan areas. And so Justin is going to work on that with myself and the rest of the ordinance committee to develop some changes in the ordinance to support urban agriculture and other resources to bring local food sources into our community.
Very good. Thank you, Lauren. Next council member would be Andy Hom. Andy?
Yeah, I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Philberto?
I don't have anything.
Mylan?
Yes, Mayor, yeah. Just a comment on the reader board sign. We're still working on it. It's coming along very good, and hopefully in another week we'll have this new reader board up and running. Also, Larry, potholes, is anything new on potholes?
The potholes, we were able to, last week when it was still warm, we tried to take advantage as best we could with the available batch plant that was open and running. And we did get several trucks out, but we do need to do some more. And we're going to try to do that again if the weather will hold.
Okay, very good. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thanks, Mylan. On the mayor's side, I've got a couple of things I want to talk about for a moment. In particular, we have Halloween coming up in a couple of weeks. And it's not something that is going to be organized. There won't be trunk or treat. There won't be anything more than probably the traditional style of Halloween trick-or-treating by children. But please keep in mind that staying home is the safest. Doing Halloween the old-fashioned way is safest for us. But if you do go out, keep the time out among other people quick, and remember to keep your distance, wear the mask, and especially, please watch for children on the streets because they're excited with their costumes and with getting candy, and very often they don't even have a clue where the street is, and they may run right in front of you. So be very, very careful on that aspect of Halloween. They'll have a great time, and I'm sure we're all excited for them, the fun that they will have, but we need to be very careful about them on the streets so that they don't get hurt. We've also had an advisory that's come from the Department of Health, and this has to do with a safer Halloween. And in particular, they talked about possibly doing scavenger hunts at home or different things like that that keeps the family together rather than out with other people that might have the COVID or have a contagious situation. So see what you can do on that to keep your children safe but having a great time. And the same, we use Zoom, and Zoom video will be coming to City Council probably next time, so that we'll be talking to you about whether you have a camera on your laptop or your computer and whether we can do Zoom video so that we can actually see everything going on at the same time. If you do have Halloween get-togethers, because kids love to trick-or-treat together, make sure they're careful, that they know about keeping their distance and that they're wearing a mask, even under their mask. But please watch for those children. It's important for them, and it's very important for all of us. I think one last thing, I'm really hoping that our community will support the hospital bond. It's a very important thing, and it is especially important for the health and safety of people living in Goldendale. I don't know whether you know how much a helicopter ride costs, but it's thousands and thousands and thousands. Our hospital is better and better and better and has more and more services, and we need this hospital no matter what our age. So I hope we'll have good support from the community on that. So those are the items that I wanted, and from that we will go on. Unless there's questions or comments to me, I can listen to those as well.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor, just to back you up, I will tell you that my roommate's initial visit to KVH and being shipped off to Portland, she is now in debt $100,000,
Oh,
which
my.
includes the evac. So yes, it is very expensive.
Yeah. It is an astounding cost, and we need to do all we can to be able to have the insurance to cover that in the future. Thanks, Kevin. If there aren't any other comments, let's go to public comment. And anyone that has used the number to call in, wants to make any kind of public comment, please do so now.
Mayor Roger Nichols here, and I just want to thank you for moving toward Zoom video style. I think will be very helpful for everybody. I think a lot more people will attend. I know that's been happening to other organizations that have used that. Thank you, and I totally support what you're doing.
Thank you, Roger. I think it'll be a much easier and more informative city council when we can see each other and the public can see each other as you work through the council business. Communication is very, very important, and this is a very good change for us. I don't know that we have other public comments.
I wonder, Mayor, this is Lauren, if we could just back up for a minute. I'd like to discuss if maybe we could do some sort of public service announcement about Halloween and just make sure that the community knows, maybe provide indicators that they're receptive to the kids stopping and doing their Halloween tradition, and versus other folks that may not be receptive to that, and just having clear, making it clear at the door front as to whether or not they're receptive, and then also educating the kids as they're traveling around town and doing their traditional trick-or-treating, so that we don't potentially have any conflicts or issues with that. I think it might be helpful. I don't know if that's something that the city could engage in or not, but it might be a good message to get out there.
We can certainly do that, and Roger Nichols is on the line as well, so he probably is going to take care of it ahead of us. Thanks,
It'll be in
Roger.
the radio and on the newspaper as well.
Very, very good. That's exactly what we need. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
You bet, thank you. I don't know that we have other public comments, and any of the public that might be listening, you can always email us, come by the office, or call. We'll be happy to talk to you at any time. With that, I think we've finished the business for City Council tonight. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
This is Andy, I'll make that motion.
Just smiling, I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn City Council for October 19th, 2020. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Good night.